The following statements, opinions, and humor expressed by Khalid do not represent that of a competent intellectual or, for that matter, indicative of a mentally stable human being. Any attempt at taking these comments too seriously will be met with a thundering meh, locad memes, and years upon years of emotional eating. That being said, Khalid is unrelentingly driven to providing you the most valuable commodity available to any new podcast, a pompous use of big words, deafening awkward silences, and the pursuit of annoying unspecific small truths that kind of help yet somehow don't.
Hello and welcome back to Bedouin Banter. I am your host Khalid the Dosri, and we are here for podcast episode number 4. Number 4. And I'm actually really excited to have an old friend of mine in the studio, somebody that I've been wanting to show a perspective on, because I think for the last couple episodes we've only had people that have had the gaming niche kind of perspective, which is something that I'm very comfortable with. But today I have somebody that I've worked with on a professional level, I'd say. Semi-professional, maybe?
Semi-professional.
We're
all holding semis.
Yes. I have my good friend, David Richardson. He's Bahraini in the sense that he's as close to Bahraini as I am, I'd say. Oh. Somebody that has grown up in the area, grown up in the region. I've worked with him in events companies, a local events company, Bohobaha, also run by a couple of my friends. We did narrative and story. He's done amazing costumes for me at one point when we worked together. Yeah. Such a wonderful experience with him. So please, again, help me in welcoming him onto the show. Dave Richardson, sir.
Hello everybody. Nice to meet you, nice to be here. Hello Khalid.
Hello, sir.
Thank you for this amazing opportunity. Yeah. This is not really my voice, but I don't know, I'm here right now. We'll move into this eventually.
We wanted to keep this formal at some point, and then we decided maybe English voices.
maybe English voices.
Some British colonial aspects.
We're all products of the colonial system anyway. Yes.
I feel repressed again, it's wonderful.
Right.
That should make some of the people at home feel happy, I guess.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know Dave, Dave, can you give us background? What started your path to actually participating in entrepreneurial ventures in Bahrain?
Straight. Well, I mean, one of the earliest things I can remember is when it comes to finding something that was purely my own was the first day I drew Spider-Man on a piece of paper, and I was just like, did I do this? Like, how did I do this? And then you're just comparing like the image that you try to replicate, and then it's like, I'd like to do something with art. So that's where it started from.
Yeah, because you wouldn't classify yourself as simply an artist. You're an artist. You're somebody that's worked in the corporate field.
Right.
You have a background as well in what's the terminology? I want to say biomechanics. The other day we had a geneticist on here. No, he was a geneticist as well. Yeah. But I think it's because he loved X-Men so much.
Yeah. Well, biomedical engineering.
Yeah.
But that is because I am a product of 2 Indian parents who are lovely. They wanted their son to, doctor, engineer, the regular.
That's the perfect blend of doctor plus engineer, isn't it? It's the super hybrid.
Yeah. Like, you can't complain about anything else, mom and dad. Like, like I've done it. I'm not drawing. I'm drawing like cells and mitochondria. No, but like.
That has been the two facets of your identity. You have the comic book artsy style of somebody that is all out there and creatively like living.
Aren't you happy you're not hearing this end of like this voice if you're sitting on the other end of a table and I'm a doctor?
Yeah,
like, how are you doing, sir? What are you?
To be fair, for a biomechanical engineer, or was it biomedical? Biomedical engineer, you do have the Gandalf stature that I've always enjoyed so far. His beard. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who can't see, we don't have a webcam yet in the studio, but he has the proper Gandalf beard, and not the hipster beards that you see in the last 5 years. This is legit. Like, he could have been coming out of a cave, a hermit style. The spirituality is brimming.
It literally is a journey of self-discovery. Like, started it in Jan, I'm gonna see how far it gets in a year.
That is insane.
8 months in. 8 months in.
I hate you for that. It takes me 6 months to get this little stubble on the chin, and then it's still patchy like a goat's ass.
It took time. Like, this only popped out, like, really since I was 27.
Right.
Previously to that, it was like, the field looks a bit sparse. You know, like, you know.
So you're drawing Spider-Man, thinking about your medical degree. No, just getting back to this whole wrapping it all together. The beard to me represents that as well. It defines you.
The culmination
of
ideals.
It is the culmination of this torn identity value that is within you. How did you bridge that? You start off with, like I said, you have a creative background. You have this love of art and comic books and film and subculture that's grown around you and influenced who you're with and who you work with as well. So how do you come to terms with making that work in somewhere like the Middle East,
right?
That's already kind of going through kind of identity crisis of its own.
I suppose it is, yeah. Like the one thing I'm really happy about is seeing a lot of people from our generation, the 90s, the 80s, especially in the arts field, being noticed a lot more. And it's not like a school competition. It's not just a drawing competition. Like, who's going to draw like this horse the best, and here's your trophy. And that's the end of your story.
Right.
But now, like, pretty much what we're doing as well. Like, we're I think, as far back as I go, the first time I was really proud about Bahrain was like when Imran popped onto the scene, and what, Bahrain has a comic? It's like Jamaica's got a bobsled team, you know.
For anybody that doesn't know, listening at a global level, Imran Aradi is a local stand-up comedian. He kind of set the tone of the scene here.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if he's the first of his generation, but there's been a bunch that all came out around the same time.
Yeah.
They were on the Axis of Evil comedy tour. He opened for that, I think.
Bara Abdullah opened for that, actually.
Oh, it was Bara as well?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So both good friends of mine here in Bahrain, and hopefully one day we'll have him on the show. But yeah, Imran has been... Is he kind of a role model for you, for somebody that struggled with his own identity in Bahrain as well?
Yeah, because we're close friends. So like when we sit down and this is back in the day when he was, you know, doing the basic things like creating his brand, you know, creating his website, and then learning about the intricacies of working with somebody online who's creating your website. Because we were there at once upon a time. Like today, now we have a whole bunch of web designers, graphic designers in Bahrain that you can call upon and do work with. But back in the day, I'm talking about like 7 years ago.
It was a wasteland apocalypse.
Yeah. People were going on
for miles.
Bring the graphic designers to me. I must have skulls and bones on my car.
Chain them to the walls. Yeah, but like, but 7 or 8 years ago, it was just, what's it, like Upwork? You know, Upwork. You go, like, look for web designers. It's like, how much? It's like, you know, oh, this is good rate, but like it's so foreign. There is no one was picking up personalities.
Right.
Artwork always has a personality, a very specific voice, which not a lot of the older generation recognizes right now.
That's one of the communication barriers we always have. It's a reoccurring story I hear from all my friends that are somewhat professional, that they like whether you're fully, as in you fully work in a corporate field, or you're starting your own business, or if you're just a freelancer that, you know, deals with people that you're very selective about.
Right.
The communication barrier that comes to all the new disciplines, whether they be graphic design, whether it be like writing outside of copy work, anything that we've kind of worked on, events planning, it is difficult to translate to them why it matters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of function over the understanding of form and how to bring both together in the real world. Even though they see the examples of it on TV, they see the examples of it from like companies and media companies in Dubai. They know they like it.
Right.
They just don't know why it works. That's the barrier, I feel.
Yeah, kind of. Like it, but it is that, and it is also it's an old thought where you know, if you want some design work, you could pick it off a shelf.
Yeah.
That's how a lot of the older generation feels like. But you find the few that are like, oh wait, I know the reason I'm picking a graphic designer to do this job.
Yeah.
I know a reason why I'm asking this artist to paint something for me. Because specifically, I kind of like your work. So I want you to do this. But then you find the people that is like, where the negotiation is less about the value of your work and more about the price of the work.
Right.
You know, and it's...
And that's when it all those
identity.
values, all those all those principles that they might have wanted to invest in, they're suddenly out the window. Because then you're talking price, right?
Yeah, that's it. There's no identity. Like, I can't put my personality into my work anymore. Yeah. You know, it's I'm somebody else's design department.
Is that why you flash back to the Spider-Man and the Hulk? Like this is a story I've heard so many times from David. It's always been a recurring one. Let's give us a background. Again, I cut you off earlier on, and I want to know, what is it about that moment where you drew Spider-Man, you drew the Hulk,
right,
and you felt like you might not be was it conforming?
Actually, I think okay. It was in grade 6 when that happened,
Right.
And until grade 6, I mean, we're talking a lot about identity growing up in the Middle East. I had none. I was an Indian kid, born and brought up in Bahrain. So my background is quite traditional Hyderabadi.
Yeah.
But even they were sort of brought up by American missionaries, which is why I speak English like I do, you know. But then when we moved to Bahrain, Dad's working at the American Mission Hospital. So again, like
they had their own struggle with identity and what that meant for them as well. But
of course,
isn't that the norm in India? Like maybe it's not for you. Didn't grow up in India in that sense. For those of you that don't know, Dave is the furthest away from Indian culture as you can be.
I really wish I was closer to you guys. Like I really want to celebrate like one of those festivals and really like feel the background,
the brotherhood,
you know?
and solidarity. But is that like I can understand it from my perspective a lot of times where I have to kind of, and Imran maybe goes through this as well. You have to kind of find the root of your heritage and kind of explore it, and because it's a common and shared language of people in the region. But isn't it different in India? Like in India, doesn't it go without saying that everybody's so different culturally from one region to the next?
Yeah.
There's like a ton of religions. There's a ton of different mentalities. Isn't it normal to run into somebody that is not necessarily that attached to the culture? Or
I mean, India is like so proud of the variety, the variation, the differentiation across the board. Like you know, you walk 10 centimeters away, and there's another religion happening right there.
Right.
You know, but
they celebrate the diversity, but you still feel people hold you accountable.
I think they're addicted to creating the diversity.
Yeah.
To be frustrated about it later. It's like, you're so different, you know? Like, I just can't place it. Like
look at that. Cause I don't want to do an Indian accent at the moment.
I don't know. Okay, let us do the Indian. No, but I'm really terrible at doing it. But I will try. But yeah, so...
You feel like they do... like they'd say, the barrier of your diversity and your outwardness, your otherness is limited by the borders of the country. In that sense, so you can be as diverse as you can be about your identity inside India, as long as it's Indian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So your parents were completely different to that, and
completely. I mean, there was like okay, for an example, in their culture. They're Christian Baptists, South Indian Baptists, you know. So because they are probably the second or third generation of Christians in that group, they have a lot of mixture of cultures, like a lot of traditions that carried on from the Hindu side of things as well. So they are a biryani as much as I am. Like, this is what I can say. You know, it's like, except I'm here, so I'm definitely majboos, you know,
for the white people or Westerners, that I'm assuming it's the white people that don't know, because even I think Indians and people that are culturally aware would have heard at some point about biryani. Biryani is a Southeast Asian dish. Is it South Asian, Southeast Asian?
South Asian, yeah.
South Asian dish. And it's also like kind of culturally penetrated all the way into the Middle East and has different variations. And that kind of mix and diversity and how the recipe is kind of similar to when we say chicken nuggets. Before earlier I said chicken nuggets. So something that you know is convoluted. It's the mutt of of dishes. Yeah.
You know, like you would say, like in Asia, rice is not just rice. It is like a variety of rices. Like you know, like where if you say that exact phrase in America, it means something completely different. You know, so yeah, you know, like so. Product of cultures,
right? And a product of parents that are not conformists as far as their culture is concerned. So how does that translate to you? Did you feel like you had that kind of understanding of if you being also a divergent? You're like a tangent the same way your parents are a tangent. You just went.
Where's he going? I don't know.
You made me. You created me.
It's like that Xbox 360 ad, like, you know, the baby just flies straight out of, like, the feet. Like, like, you know, and he just grows up on that table. Yeah, no, but it's literally that. Like, I am nothing like, I suppose, what my parents' dreams would
what their hopes and dreams are shattered for.
Know? Yeah, you know, they probably expected bigger glasses and a white coat. You know, it's... But
it's just still a thing.
It could still happen.
For role playing in Dungeons and Dragons.
We now have a doctor on the table. Yeah, no. So yeah. So for me, learning how to draw was me actually finding something that was specifically mine. Because everything else was fed to you, like until grade 6, you're young.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to make friends. I didn't have that many because I mean the level of retardation I have today is probably a mature version of that one. You know, it's like but like I couldn't find venue for my interests. Like from my entire group, growing up in American Mission Hospital, Bahrain, which is a tight knit at that point, multicultural but still very American community.
Yeah.
And until grade 5, I actually had community. You know, like we'd all meet in the evenings and we'd bring out our little like Transformers and Power Rangers, and then going at it. And I had my friends group, but when I was a part of school, I had to be something completely different. Like no one else ever shared a culture that was similar to mine.
That's the issue,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I remember talking about. I think in the first episode I touched on it slightly, where a lot of us that do grow up with this clash of cultures and civilizations that happens within ourselves, the biggest issue isn't that you're confused. You're meant to be goddamn confused as a teenager, you know what I mean? You're meant to be emo and struggling to find your purpose in life, but at least I feel like in so many different identities around the world, you do have kind of people to look up to. You're like, oh, that guy's gone through the same struggle I have, or that community similar shares the same values and principles that I want to explore and discover. That seems like something I want to do. But you're describing a very similar scenario I went through, where there's like, oh shit, where's the equivalent to this? Who is
people
it?
at?
Where are my people?
Yeah. Initially all the way until like grade 5 when I was quite young, like if we were sleepovers at your friend's place or whatever, we're watching we're watching comically related stuff, pop culture America is what we covered, so
that was the universal language that shared and bridged people and made you friends and closer to each other, right?
Right. But then as soon as like I started, like there was this point in old Bahrain where like with the whole with the amount of the Gulf War.
Yes.
It changed things.
This is 91, by the way, not the other Gulf War.
91. Yeah,
put that in perspective.
Tons of my white people left.
Yeah.
And then all I was left with in almost every form, like, if we look at me as an entity, I'm this dot, and around me is my first circle, which is my family.
Right.
Second circle around that was friends, and in one night, the outer circle was gone.
Disappeared.
Yeah, and what remained was like
betrayal.
I like you guys, but I can't really like be around you all the time because like we don't share the same language.
Yeah.
I mean, and by language I don't mean English. I mean
just the ability to kind of understand one another and click on different concepts.
That's it.
Whatever
That's
it is.
it.
Yeah.
That's
it.
You can't be excited about like the Ninja Turtles as much as I am in this room where they want to talk about like
Chelsea, Manchester.
Yes,
that's my example.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Like I still remember trying. This is one.
Was it cricket for you? Or was it? I feel like that was a big assumption on my part. But
No. That was the box. I just fell into it. Like no one else accepted me.
They didn't give you a choice.
So yeah, the next couple of years was me doing all these things I usually had community to do things with.
Yeah.
By myself. And if you try and do that in an environment, especially school, where I'm the only one. I was the only one all the way until senior 1, which is grade 7.
Yeah.
Where there were only 2 other people that we shared like basic interests. And I still remember the first time I drew, my teacher, we had an art teacher, so we could draw anything. Our art period was like, do whatever the you want. Like, it's like, so I'm sitting down there and I did this version of Spider-Man and I made a friend. Like somebody actually walked up and was like, hey man, that's really cool.
You know how there's like gay signaling? This is like geek signaling.
Yeah.
Like, he just saw the Spider-Man fade out. Oh, you share the same interest I do, buddy. Come here. Let's talk Spidey.
And the thing is, I was mad into the history of it.
Right.
The history of comics, the story of Spider-Man, like the various like universes.
The
I was deep. I was deep in the doo-doo. Like,
went hardcore.
Yeah, absolutely hardcore. He also liked to draw, but for a completely different purpose.
And you
he
thought-
liked Catwoman's big tangs. And that's all he would draw. Catwoman with big tangs. Like, oh.
But did you recognize straight away that there was this difference in mindset and what because he could have been going through a phase for all you know, but you you being the desperate, I'm assuming, man, that you were as desperate as I was, that pushes you to bridge the divide and be like, okay, look, I don't want to judge this person, right? He might be a bit awkward about like his cat today's, but I still want to get to know why it is we share the same things. And
For sure. I mean, that guy basically, like, I still call him my mentor, because he's the one, I suppose, that taught me to have confidence in what I do. Yeah. You know, rather than keeping it hidden, like we'd have this rough book, and that's where I do my sketches. And then I'd close it real quick before a teacher comes along, because like, why are you doing this?
But this guy, he's flaunting them titties left and right. He
flaunting them, and he can't say nothing to Adil. Like, you can't do it. Like, you know, like he just did his thing, and he sort of had, you know, some people have this level of charm that's like, why are you doing that, Adil? What are you drawing? Here, check it out.
Why don't you do it, Dave?
You know?
As he smokes a cigarette and looks out a window. The world is short, Dave. They're all insects and sheep.
Yeah, like that sort of John Constantine vibe, you know? Like, and, so, that's...
He was... How old were you at this point? How old was he?
I was probably 11.
11 years old.
11, 12, and he was probably 15, 14.
Yeah, so he was way ahead. This was like your first entry into like edginess, angstiness, and emo-ness at this point.
I mean, there was a big part of me that was really happy that, like, you know, I found something that somebody would go like, holy shit, like, how does he do that? Because, you know, it could lead to a potential girlfriend. That's what you're thinking at that time.
Also right under the surface, brimming at this point.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I hope she asks me to draw her butt naked. So,
all right.
But yeah,
how did that translate with you and him actually as a role model, somebody like ahead of you in life by that 6-year curve and a gap? How do you take complete motive and an agency from him? Do you follow his route, or do you feel like even he didn't fit the mold of what you thought you could be, or what you didn't know you wanted to be anyway? You didn't know where to put yourself, maybe.
Well, if you take into consideration, I didn't know what mold actually meant. I didn't know where it could go. All I knew is he had a style that was completely different from mine, but I appreciated his style. And he really liked my style. And we would both tell each other that his style was better than mine. Like, I would say, it's like, yours is much better than mine. He's like, no, yours is better than mine.
Right.
And so it sort of inculcates this idea that there's a high level of individuality that comes into it. Into our work, you know, while everybody else is drawing what your teacher tells you to draw from your textbook.
Right.
You know, I mean, from your textbook. Like,
so,
you know,
to you, there's almost these like levels of my like. This is why, guys at home, I was really interested in showing this side of the Middle East and bring this podcast to you, because as you can see here, Dave is a great example of what many of us went through, which is like a microcosm of a world within another world within another world, and you can be different levels of an outsider within these separate bubbles. So you were alien, maybe perhaps in your behavior to your parents. You were very alien to this guy who was maybe normal kind of alienistic because he was just 6 years ahead of you in the curve in design. But then in your own school and your own community, you also have the greater bubble of the Middle East, and maybe your alienation from Arabic culture or friends. Did you have any Arabic influences growing up at that age, or people that lived with you in the Middle East that were also designers or artists, or
no.
None of that.
No, not exactly. Like, I mean, there were other people that I knew that liked to draw, but it was other things. Like my friend Ryan D'Souza was really good at doing these Dexter and, you know, Dexter's Lab.
The Cartoon Network,
And that's the direction he ended up going through animation. Like, he was really good at that Batman Beyond style, the animated stuff, you know, like, and that wasn't really my cup of tea at all, you know. In terms of an art style, I really liked the Jim Lee, you know, the Jack Kirby's, Norm Rapmond, you know, you know, Frank Cho, you know, like having that level of detail. Like, I didn't even get into anime very early on because I was like, why do they all have huge eyes and tiny torsos, and like, what are those with big heads, you know? Like,
what are they trying to tell me?
Yeah, you know, it's
making me very confused.
So I didn't really go like you. As an artist, you probably share this with me as well. You have very specific interests.
Yeah, and
very
early on, you tend to cling at them like it's a religion. You just don't want to let go. Yeah,
like the first couple of Spider-Man movies that came out with Tobey Maguire was irritating.
Yeah,
like okay, Kalos. If you're going to Kalos, we adopted the language.
There it is. Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
Khalas is Arabic, by the way, for done. That's it.
For
Did
done,
you capiche?
capiche. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. And what was I saying? Yeah, sorry. So Tobey Maguire, right? And he's shooting webs out of his wrists.
Yeah,
naturally.
Where
if you ask me, if you were to take on these traits, and they're supposed to be natural, you'd be shooting it out of your ass.
Well, yeah, it does seem very already kind of they went the halfway step to very an unusual pornographic kind of display. It seems why wouldn't you want this to be artificial or mechanical in nature? Doesn't it kind of be off-putting that he's squirting white stuff out of his wrists?
Yeah, exactly.
Some producer dropped the ball there, I think.
I mean, they kind of played with that idea as well. Like in one of the scenes where I just remember there was web everywhere.
Yeah,
and he just sort of blew
blew his load right over.
But those little intricacies frustrate me. Because I know what I like, and I know that the people whose work that I liked as a kid have matured and have grown and pushed their work into different areas, got bigger, they're doing different things, but there's something very specific about their madness.
Right.
About the way they pursue something. And in that aspect, ultimately what, as a graphic designer today, a lot of my style is based on liking that level of detail and symbolism and clarity of those specific people that I grew up with. They might be comic artists, but they influence my branding. Right, yeah. Though one of the people that influenced my branding greatly is Shafa.
Oh yeah, that's my wife, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's I've to learn about branding from that angle, where it's all about bringing something simple and simplicity in
form and that cleanliness, that how to make less equal to more somehow.
It's exactly that, which I never had a mentor to teach me that.
Yeah.
And Shada taught me that. Plus the initial few projects that we worked on with each other, I didn't know where she was coming from, and she didn't know where I was coming from. So if we'd sit and go if she asks me, what do you think of my work? I'd be like, it's great. Yeah, but I don't understand it.
So you're not able to judge it at that point. You feel you're not in that line of thinking, and that's how different your DNA is as artists, right?
But that also taught me this. I don't have many role models, or not enough of them. YouTube was what saved me, and at least in this part of the world, YouTube. Back in the day, that dial-up connection, just have something running, and I remember one of the first pieces.
That was the sound of hope, by the way. That was hope.
Yeah,
for us, it was all
literally hope.
From the Saudi guy that just wanted to download one extra nudie pic to
that's it.
The guys that wanted to play video games online or anything.
We're all on LimeWire.
Everybody was anonymously escaping from something, and that was heaven to so many people.
Yeah, no, pretty much. Don't you dare pick up that phone, Mom.
Yeah.
I'm doing my internets right now. But
so can I ask you a question before we move on to the global phenomenon that is the interwebs and how it kind of connected us to our different tribes, made us feel like we're a much bigger global community, and that's kind of what I said before, guys. This is what the show is about. It's about you guys, presenting that aspect of how we're connected on a tribe that exists over this network of people all growing up around the same time, watching the same movies, watching the same shows, sharing this heritage. For you, what stopped you from going out to Greater Bahrain and actually looking deeper into the circles of people that didn't necessarily share your values? Right. So for me, I was forced to, because I was, like I said, I wasn't a compound kid. I did not have friends. I had friends in Aramco and everything after going to school in Bahrain, but I wasn't close enough to them to actually be part of their culture. I was very alien. very I was Arabo in that sense. Like for them, their side of the spectrum, as they looked at to me, I was not part of the in crowd, and on the other side of it, for my Arab friends, although they were more welcoming to the alienness of who I am, because I was a novelty figure. You know what I mean? Like he speaks English really well. Look at him.
Right. Yeah.
So to me, I was kind of forced to look for anybody that would accept my language, my skills. And even if it meant that there was a lot of awkwardness, a lot of conflict, a lot of moments where you kind of have to explain yourself, and he gets misunderstood, I get misunderstood, but I was pushed to that because growing up a Saudi, you kind of all feel like no matter how different we are and what we believe in, we're all kind of under the same umbrella of we're all not welcome here in our thoughts and beliefs. So I mean, those people that are outsiders, that are creative thinkers, if they're people that challenge the system and who they are and what they believe in, they do consider, well, maybe he's alien to me, but we're all alien together in the greater scope of the Saudi structure, right?
Right.
So it makes us talk to each other. It's kind of like shared, this shared oppression. It's like I'm gonna tolerate you.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I was watching this Vice documentary about not documentary, it was like expose on this Saudi artist that like created the first Cineplex, and they actually put it in this university. And remember the first time that he did it, and it wasn't well received by the public, let's say. But yeah, it's moments like that I actually know exactly what you're talking about. Except for me, the big hurdle, what pushed me out of the fold, quite literally, was the church. The church. Because there's this idea of secularism and stuff like that, which is just not accepted. It's and it's not wrong. Like the way I look back, it's a lot more thanks now, and back then a lot of angst and anger and whatnot. Yeah. But that's what forced me out as well. I mean, the big step for me is putting my stuff up on DeviantArt, looking for other collaborators. Right, yeah. And this was at the age of 15. I was like 15 by the time I did it. Like, I felt late. So do you feel like the reason you didn't, let's say, look for people of similar DNA outside of the communities you knew, like your high school, the church and all that, is there because you felt this massive, not massive, but this rejection that came from where you were at in your own community? Imagine like somebody saying, so what's the meaning of Spider-Man? Right. And be like, nothing, he's just or Wolverine or whatever. Why they look so angry all the time? Yeah. And if something is not of like, they basically branded it as something not of God. Yes. So basically for 2 years there was what purpose does it serve? Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah. What is the meaning behind this? Are you expressing yourself? Obviously, if you're putting something down on paper, you're expressing yourself. I'm like, dude, this is my Zen moment right here. Right. I'm really enjoying doing this without really knowing why I enjoy doing it. Like, you should see me draw an iceberg. But some people, and even in my community, saw that as a form of mind control. And that's maybe why we developed the skill to be able to express ourselves. See, I'm not even. That's the skill right there. That's how crap it is as far as I'm concerned. But the ability to express yourself is kind of grows from this constant harassment where they ask you why you're doing it, and you don't even know at that point. Yeah, so, did you feel like that's the barrier that stopped you from looking for people further in this community because of how cliquey we were? So Gulf Arabs would stick to Gulf Arabs. People that were of different Arab, maybe Levant heritage, maybe they're from Lebanon or somewhere else. Syrian. They don't necessarily hang that well with other Arabs or crews. Depending, there's a lot of interchange, but the meat of what creates you tend to want to be safe. Right. And stay in your little clique. Did you feel like that was influenced by how much people interrogated you from your own background? And you're like, the others won't understand me. Yeah. But in the internet, you're anonymous. Yeah. No, it had a lot to do with that. Like, a lot of my mentors, a lot of the people that I the greater mentors, not the ones that like helped me start up, but the ones that really taught me like ink work and line work and stuff. Like Prado Inkworks was like a huge influence on me when I helped him out with this Daredevil piece. Can you explain to the viewers or listeners, what that is? So Prado Inkworks is one of these like accounts on DeviantArt, and I sort of added him, and then I'm looking for my mentor. I'm looking for somebody that I can and you only hope, like, when you send a message to one of these big guys that they will reply. Yeah. It took him 2 months. But when he replied, he's like, "Hey, I really like your work. You know, you seem like you're getting up there." I was like, "Can you give me a chance? Can I?" I don't know what I'm asking for. Can you give me a chance, bro? Like, you know,
I like your work, kid. I'll take you with me straight to Hollywood.
Yeah.
I make you famous.
Yeah, I kind of hoped he had that voice. He was Mexican though. Like, you know, hey man, I take you all the way, bro. Like,
we come to California, man.
you know,
Together or make you big.
so
Like 2 months later, he's just stealing your. That's not a dig on Mexicans. It's a dig on artists. Just
that's it. We're influenced by your comedians, people. Like that's all it is.
No, there is this fear that when you're talking to somebody that's bigger than you creatively, that because you are brought up in the Middle East to be very protective of your art or whatever it is your work, because we have a very non-collaborative attitude here, where it's like, be afraid that I'm sharing. I want this guy to see it, but he might steal my jokes. He might steal my writing. He might take something from me that is me and then dump me in the side. So maybe that fear lingers in the back of your head as far as this guy was concerned, or were you taking a risk knowing full well you didn't care? You know, whatever comes out of it, I want to just be connecting with this guy.
I just really wanted to have somebody I could look up to. You know, somebody that could show me the ropes instead of me continuously trying to draw somebody else's work and then try to find my own work in between. Like, how do you progress? How do I make those connections to get into Marvel?
Yeah.
Or Cliffhanger, or, you know, DC, whatever it was. Like, I wanted to do comic art.
Yeah.
And this could, like, and because he replied to me, that was like, now you done it.
The
now
door
you
is
done
open
it.
now.
So
here come the flood of emails.
Yeah, and
that's 100 emails coming
that's
at him.
literally what it was. And for a period of 5 months, he was sending me his line work, and I was inking it. You know, and that's how we collaborated on this one like Daredevil issue. Like, and that was the beginning of something. Like, I thought it was going to be the beginning of me getting into it, like, even heavier.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, the pressure that ended up coming in from being in high school and all of that, you eventually just faded, you know, because all I was hearing from my parents is, if you want to do art, we're going to send you to India. I was like, don't do that. I don't want to go there. You know,
if you're going to do it, you're going to do it the traditional way, damn it.
Yeah, no, I want to go to the States. I want to go to Chicago. Yeah. That's where I want to learn. That's where I want to practice. But, you know, no, you can't do it. You know, so I'm like, I'll do anything then. You know, right. One of my other interests, like sciences. I was good with the sciences. I really, really, really enjoy, like, you know, popular science. You know, National Geo. It's like that was the culmination of that effort.
Right.
You know, and I was like, biomedical engineering might work. It's bio and it's medical and it's engineering. Yeah. You know, so I'm gonna make myself some really cool prosthetic arms one day. You know,
you were trying to rationalize it in a way that kind of all fit together.
I can see a whole bunch of kids like that really take biomedical engineering seriously, and I met a couple of them because they're all like, you know, really studious and like, you know, yes, I got this percentile in this year and this percentile in this year.
Oh, it's so annoying. I did the exact same thing when I applied to Bahrain school. They made me like in my application. I think one of the things that got me in was not how I answered the test. It was complete crap. My scoring was probably terrible as far as I remember. But the one thing I remember writing was because I didn't know how to talk about the things I loved in a passionate way that would get me in, I started bullshit about things that would, you know, that were similar to what I loved. So I like sci-fi, right? I'm not going to write for hours about me wanting to be a sci-fi writer. So I decided, I love this and this, so I want to do robotics. And that was the thing back then. You know, if you're looking at entry-level stuff back in the early 2000s, robotics was like cutting edge. It's like everybody needs to get into that. If you even mention it, it means you're this, you know, there's this kid that understands, you know, you're going to Harvard, you're going to MIT or somewhere else.
We have Star Wars Episode 3 with Anakin with that little robotic arm. Yeah. I actually had Cable in my mind, like, for biomedical engineering. Like, you know, he's like...
Cable is a comic book character from the X-Men universe, for those of you that do not know. But
yeah, I mean, he's got this, like, you know, he's a machine. He's
time-traveling badass.
That's like, you know, that is that literally was my inspiration for biomedical engineering, because as far as I'm concerned, something that can be engineered has no end.
Right.
And even if it includes, like, the human body, it's like, it's everything. Everything can be engineered and turned into something else. So I didn't feel too bad getting into biomed. But what I did feel after 3.5 years of being in that system was that was a box in itself, where no one really wants to know what your inspiration was.
Yeah.
If you're like literally this, as soon as you get into a certain career, you want to know what you're going to be, what possibilities exist in the future work that you do.
Yeah.
And for me,
You felt like you couldn't see where this was going.
Yeah,
you thought it
no,
would
and I
translate back
knew.
to what you loved, back to what you were
exactly.
into.
I saw myself in this little room with like, surrounded by little bits and bobs, and I'm just going,
See, so still
it
in
is
your,
alive.
still in your mind. How old were you at this point? Was it 18, 19, 20?
18,
Yeah.
19.
So still in your head, you were thinking, in this like there was a real world where you were convincing yourself that biomedical engineering was somehow relatable to the cartoon world that was in your own head that you wanted to make
Actually,
real.
That's very interesting that you put it that way, because I've heard that from a variety of my friends. Because comics, cartoons, books, especially books,
You
were
see the
my
world through
first
that lens.
friends.
Yeah. You would have to see the world through that lens.
That's the reason I wear glasses today is because my reading schedules were so were scheduled by my parents. Like you'd come back straight from school. I didn't want to sleep. I wanted to read a book.
Yeah.
And I'd chill and read. It's like, no, it's time to sleep. It was like, oh, okay, all right, pass out. And then the first thing you do when you wake up is go watch the cartoons on Channel 55.
Exactly. And for those of you that don't know or have not experienced, your own love of comic books or anything else, if you watch Saturday morning cartoons or you're watching, was it Channel 55 in Bahrain or Aramco in Saudi, all these they put on the 80s and 90s cartoons that everybody kind of loved at the time. But if you were reading comic books, there was this ongoing kind of hope, because every week you'd get the next issue. Of course, they were jumbled in the Middle East. I'm not sure how your experience was. Iyad, the other day, we had him on board. He was talking about his frustration with that, never getting the right issue.
Man, I would scour Bahrain.
Yeah.
Like, I used to get my comics either from, like, this one supermarket, and if it wasn't there, I'd have to go and check at Jawad's.
Right.
If it's not at Jawad's, I have to go check Al Osra, and then sometimes they don't have it.
They don't have it.
Don't
It's
have
just
it.
gone. And they'll bring a different comic book altogether. All of a sudden, you're into X-Men. You never heard of that before. And then they'll take it away and bring the Flash or something.
Yeah. It was almost like they were testing the market to see what but like the inner hope for us at that point was, I mean, for me, like at that point was like, I would like to see everything even if I pick one.
Yes, because it's that addictive. That's what I was getting at. The power of it being that kind of a consumable.
Yeah.
You're just enough reading, just enough creativity, just enough language to constantly feed your brain week by week.
Yeah.
And you didn't care. That's how, like, even though we didn't have it out, we didn't have it in order, we didn't have anything else. You just didn't care. It was just enough to stimulate you.
Yeah,
and give you that hope and that insight into that lens of the cartoon world that we were both in. Yeah.
Exactly. I still, like, one of the funniest things is like if I was chilling out with some of my old high school friends and we were having a drink over at Beams, and Old Beams is this like really famous pub, like, we're there and obviously we got a little happy, and the first song that came into my head was the Jungle Book song, which is like culturally, the bare necessities, the simple bare, and then I still remember my friend Maha go like, "Oh, Dave, you got like this like cartoony mind. Like you remember all the words word for word." And I was like, I don't know why I do. I was just like,
When she was saying it in a good way, right?
yeah. No,
this is why we don't date you.
and that's literally it. Like I take everything that represents like that level of people observing me as the best compliment. Like whether it's critical for good or for bad. Like for me, it's my choosing of how I react to that. But like but that's a compliment. Yeah. Like I'm seeing an out. Like for me, it's like I react to certain things and I am a certain way, but the only way I know what effect I'm having is when somebody tells me what they feel.
Right.
So we've got off topic. I don't know where we were.
But let me take this opportunity for a second. I need to switch up some of the batteries here. So we'll take a break for one moment, come back to you guys. Save that throat note, although I'm probably going to be editing this part out. All right, and we're back. We had a little bit of a technical issue there. I had to kind of replace the batteries.
It's all
my
good,
fault,
man.
people.
It's all good.
But we did get a little bit off track. We were talking about your experiences with how people saw your cartoony mind, and you were with a group of friends at Old Beams. You said,
Yeah.
How?
I think how we got here was we were trying to we were mutually describing situations where our imaginations really played with what we were doing, even if it was separated from art.
Yes, and our interactions with everything else, from
Exactly.
career choices
it colored the world.
relationships and
Yeah,
everything. Yeah,
you know, like those little hopes, and it's like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna go to a gaming cafe, and hopefully I'm gonna meet gamer chick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Never did. I met a lot of gamer dudes.
It exists maybe now, and even now it's kind of a unicorn in that sense because you know I think gaming culture has the same kind of testing that people go through. Rigorous. How geeky are you?
Yeah.
You know, are you really? You're not a real geek, man. You're not a real gamer.
Exactly.
You're not. And I get this a lot now because I feel like it's one of the things I'm really worried about. I'm scared about being out of touch with my culture, because when you're really into comic books, when you're really into gaming, or you're constantly testing it, you're constantly being tested by others, because that is the rigorous way in which people want to vet you, see whether or not you are of the same tribe. Right. And I feel like a lot of people that were there before it got cool to be a geek, before it became and broke into the mainstream, a lot of people feel like, oh, well, now there's a lot of posers, a lot of fake people. You know, you have people that maybe represent geek culture on TV or gaming expos, whatever it is, and they feel like they have to be constantly vetted. But if you're going through a career and you want to develop a relationship with somebody, if you're having all these challenges through life, you're naturally going to not be as good as somebody that's constantly day in, day out, they're in tune with what's happening in the whatever extended universes of Star Wars, the novels, the other material, the source material, testing your knowledge of what it is that makes you a geek. So I'll twist this back onto relationships to see what you see with this, right? If you have this cartoony perspective in the world that's influenced by, what you considered your culture. So even you growing up in Bahrain, you were cliquey within cliques, right? Yeah. You were isolated within other groups. You were bubbles within bubbles within bubbles. You were still within your own brain, living in this isolated world where you painted your own reality, right? You created it. How do you cope with that when you're forced to deal with it now in a professional setting? Like, when was the transition point where you went? Was it when you went to study abroad for your biomedical degree, or what was it that was the wake up call to you that, like, listen, these people don't understand me, but to survive, I need to learn how to talk to them.
Man, what you just said, like where you started from, the thing that you fear the most, and that's kept you level and continually pursuing like what you're doing today and what inspires you. I lived that moment when I lost all that. Right. As soon as biomed came into the picture, that was the next 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25.
He's counting numbers on his fingers. Just for this, he's not just saying numbers.
Sorry about that. It's like, it's moving. It was only when I was 26 that I finally left after I left biomed, I came back to Bahrain, and I got into magazines and newspapers, and got into corporate events and stuff like that. So I actually bash all of that entire area in that entire 9 years, 8 years, 9 years into one category of not for me. Yeah. My least powerful moments. There are the points about it that made me miss what I used to know a lot more. Like, because I just wasn't playing the game of life, as I would have liked to play it. And when I finally, and 26 was the first time I actually quit, like a job with then there were like fireworks and sparks. And all
that's not bad though.
Things.
26 is about the right time, I'd say, when you first quit a job. Like, at least especially in a field that you're not. That's pretty confident on your part, just to go into it first, out of education, coming back to Bahrain and deciding, this is not for me. Yeah. But what is it? Like, for me, it was the feeling that I'm losing my heritage. So
I lost it all. I'm still figuring it out today. Yeah. Like, you kind of know my story. So like after I was done with corporate life, I basically blew a fuse and went and lived with gypsies in Rajasthan for a year. I really didn't know what I was doing. Like, but I was pushing the hard reset button. Yeah. Because I knew whatever I come back to, I'm going to find my own my phone almost genetic
You're going to create your own worldview, your own community again. You're going to find people that think like you. You're going to find people that kind of are looking to bridge the barrier.
Exactly.
So that I don't know if that's the same struggle you had, but one of the things I was really scared the living shit out of me was the fact that I come back from the States same way you did. I did a little bit of stand-up, some improv, all the other stuff that go hand in hand with it. And then I want to somehow make that relevant to Bahrain and what it is I'm doing. And you take the corporate gigs wherever you find the copywriting. I was really lucky to work with you guys at the events company.
And likewise,
it was
blew my mind that you existed.
Because you're so excited to actually find people that do want to work at a semi-professional. Like I'm always going to say semi-professional for myself.
Same here.
Because I have not tested it that far yet. I want to take it to the next step. But so when I say. It's so exciting to see somebody work with that kind of, especially your work ethic was something I always mocked you for having, the Christian work ethic. That is how I see it.
He's gonna sleep there till it gets done.
So yeah, I see Dave working for hours at the shop. Always, it was the studio for Boho Baha, it's an events company, and creating these mountains and kind of paper mache costumes and like all the figuring out these mechanical solutions to how to make something move like it would be a giant Jack the Skeleton puppet, and it was beautiful to watch because you get to for the first time at that age. For me, it was like 27. No, coming back to Bahrain was like age 30, and it was for the first time that I really find I didn't have to make a choice between some of my friends that were very deep into the creative or the escapism, whether it be gaming or geek culture or anything else, and having to choose between something I love passionately working with and somebody that actually has a work ethic. So I'd go to the guy that works in a corporate events company, and he doesn't have any of the creativity or the passion, but he's going to work.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And then my friends on the other side, they're creative and passionate and everything else, but it's really hard to get them to motivate because I'm not going to pay anybody. Do you know what I mean? Right. Like I can't, either you share the same mentality or you don't. And sometimes you that aligns with somebody. So aligned a lot of times with you when we're working on these projects.
Right.
And other times it might not, but you still find that the second you get that one person, you want to keep him closer. You're like, okay, that's my guy. If I need something for this, he's the go-to. He's my go-to producer. He's my go-to writer. Right. He's my go-to cast or tech or whatever it is. So for you, what was the turning point and how did you start finding those people that were sharing your mental goals?
There are a couple of these graffiti designers in Bahrain. I don't really know how they found me, but I just got this I know how they found me, but it's odd that my father comes back from work and my pop's a doctor, and he met one of his patients' son, and he was one of these graffiti designers, and he mentioned in passing that I'm a designer too, and I like art and stuff, and I got a call from the guy, and his name is Leon. I don't know his full name. I just called him Leon. And I just found out recently his real name's Muhammad, so I don't really know.
He never corrected you after the first time. It's too late.
I still call him Leon. We're in the group, and everyone was confused initially. But anyway, yeah. So that was my introductory experience into Bahrain has graffiti culture, but it's not like Philadelphia or Richmond. The graffiti culture isn't to that level. It's still muted. It's still far away from society. It hasn't really emerged as an art form, but it has been doing so in the past 4 years.
Connecting itself with people in the communities and kind of telling a story that's unique to Bahrain, you'd say?
Yeah, for sure. And plus, people in Bahrain that are artists are getting to express themselves in their very unique way, rather than being given a specific design, as vague as this. Give me something that looks like nice tree, nice fruits, nice things, it's okay, so you want a painting, a mural of a garden. Okay, yeah. So you do this painting, and it's like, why is so much very very textbook, It's he wants Renaissance,
right?
And I was like, but you did tell me that, and I can't do that. But the thing is, it is growing. That was my experience into it when I forged looking for more people to collaborate with. That's what I found. But what I found is I've also never done graffiti work in my life. I mean, I've painted walls, but not with spray paint.
So what drove you to actually to handle? Yeah, because there's many moments where it's disappointing. But I noticed after age 30, you start to not be this much of an idealist, and you're like, okay, well, people have their flaws, they have their strengths, but I'm gonna try to collaborate with this person that shares about 40 to 50%, 60% of what I can do. And if you get too picky in the Middle East, you're just gonna end up doing nothing. That's the reality.
That's pretty much it. Mean marketing scheme.
Yeah,
that's it.
So a lot of my friends that I grew up with, and some people that I might not know, I've met just offhand. A lot of people get the impression that we're living maybe in California or New York, where we get the opportunity to reject a lot of people and just be like, get me the best designer here. Yo, crap, sir. I want. You don't meet my standards. No, you have to kind of build a rapport with somebody and somehow create the relationship.
Right.
For you, did you find yourself compromising at that point, or were you still trying to cling on to
compromising?
You were,
because I didn't know the best expression of myself within Bahrain. I knew that I knew I'm good at drawing, but what does that mean? Like you kind of need to pick one. Like if a friend walks up to me and they have like, dude, you should really get into tattoo art. It's like, that's a completely different respect.
Yeah,
it's a completely different field, and the thing is, you need to work under a master to really learn, and you have to pick a master of a certain style and a certain vibe so that you get his input into your work process. So that
focus was essential for you, or
I needed to pick one.
Yeah,
and I wasn't able to. So I found myself all over the place. I was freelance. I was doing digital ads. I was doing print ads I was working as an editor in a newspaper.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You know, so I was.
But question now. Here's the thing. Was that, I'm gonna put the fire on here for a bit onto your feet. Was that you, or was that just the nature of how things are in Bahrain? And because to me, Bahrain is so small, and every opportunity is ephemeral. So things might disappear in a moment.
Yeah.
Like if things look like they're promising, they look like they're amazing, and you might have a good gig here. Or for me, it was like 2 stand-up open mics that went really well, and I thought, maybe there's going to be this routine of me going on mics and eventually going on tour, and all the jobs I got into were very different from one another because of how they would just dry up overnight. There might be a boom and like people setting up events in Bahrain because things are cheap now. Maybe more people want to spend. The economy's looking good, and then it's gone within a month or two. So you end up doing something else. Was that you? Do you feel like it was you making the choice of not really being focused in one discipline, or was it just the environment you were in?
Okay. I think it was a mixture of both, because I understood this lesson. Actually, I can only answer your question by looking back now. Because what I didn't have at that point was information. What I didn't have is where these cliques are. And I had no idea where to find them. So that answers the other. So I answered yes to both.
Yeah.
But now, and it's less a question of luck, and it's more of how much you put yourself out there. And sometimes you can try and push, but it takes that one person to introduce you to one person, and finally your people.
That one person to get you into your tribe, your people.
Exactly, and we're looking for expression. So where I'm at right now, and why I said I'm still looking to fine tune it, is I'd like to be a professional,
right?
And by having a wide variety of different things you can do, you're not really giving somebody something to concentrate on or focus on, including myself.
Right.
But the big problem, if the big problem in Bahrain is not that there is no community anymore. Now there is community. Like give me 5 years ago and ask me the same question: where can I find somebody like you, or like Petey, or like people in the arts?
Yeah.
People a little bohemian, looking to create something. I didn't know where you guys were. Yeah. And because of that, I was in my little cave, like,
tinkering
away.
Kind of like hammering out your own soul. Just trying to what is it, like, temper you into a weapon of art and creativity.
That's it.
Looking for your army, looking for your master.
Pretty much.
A Ronin without a cause.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the big question of is there a scene in Bahrain, and is there a problem finding like people to collaborate with or even express yourself? It's not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
We're much further than we were. We like the community has grown. Now I have an artist community that we meet for coffee, and we're all doing different projects, but we just meet to talk about it.
Right.
And we've been adding people to the group. So we might just be the second generation of artists in Bahrain that are creating the culture for the future generation, is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Because as much as we are complaining about it because we didn't have it, but I'm pretty sure for the next generation, they'll know where to find us.
Because we had to be the pioneers or fail miserably trying to just whine and cry about the fact that it didn't exist.
Pretty much. Because we're more now. And back in the day, I can count maybe like, if we talk about celebrities, comedians, who did we have? We had DJ Kevin.
DJ Crazy Kevin.
Crazy Kevin.
96.5.
That's
he does not sound like that. I think he was New Zealander, or is he?
No, he's English. He was English, but he's moved to Australia.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, so that's where he was. He had. I didn't realize he was called Crazy Kevin because of his hair, but then I saw it on purpose, and I realized, okay, he's a crazy ginger.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, from back in the day, we remember Marie Claire because she was a radio host.
Yeah.
And she had that like, "Hi, this is Marie Claire on 96.5," and it's like it totally like chills you out. But we had very few, and in terms of personalities, those were the ones that started it, that like inspired the next generation, which was probably.
But they were also they weren't grassroots. They weren't from here, so there was always this implication that they didn't. Their experiences and what they went through were very alien to me, and how they got to this point was very alien for me. They were imported. So they would inspire the seeds of the first generation, like you said, Imran, Bara, and all the others, and kind of like we're seeing the same effect happen in all these different disciplines. So Bara has gone on to do he's a prominent MC in Bahrain. Imran is the one that set up the first really comedy festival, kind of his own stand-up special. Right. There's people doing it all over the region, from Saudi to other places. But do you see now us as being the mentors to this new generation, or do you see us as the ones that they learn the mistakes from and just don't repeat them?
No, I think it's the mentor aspect of it. Yeah. Like I can say I've worked with a lot of young people, and I've been doing a lot of teaching, and sometimes as far in as they'd like to learn the tools of the trade. Yeah. Like they're expressing themselves on paper or in form of poetry or writing books, but they really want to know how to tie that all in together and do it for themselves. So I know I've been helping a lot of kids do that. And in terms of do's and don'ts, that's a question that only pops up with the designers or with the artists that want to take it to the next level and start their own business. Yeah. That's where the do's and don'ts really start. Because everything else, working for somebody, working in a company, you're going to learn your lessons the hard way. Like, we like to a certain extent, like we've all faced something similar if we've worked in a corporate environment. Yeah. So there are no lessons to be just, pull damn britches up and man it out, like get to the end.
Get her done.
Get her done. Is that Larry the Cable Guy? Yeah. So the do's and don'ts, I definitely am learning them as I go, because I suppose starting up a business, like me and my partner right now started Big and Rich, a design partnership company. We're in the process of setting it up, and we're learning the do's and don'ts as we go.
Like the business aspects, all these different languages, how to communicate with your partner, how to deal with your own and make sure none of your decisions are ego driven. You kind of build the trust. And you're lucky enough to be working with somebody you've known for years, but as a close friend. But does that immediately, the second you get into this entrepreneurial venture with them, right? And you have to work at this completely different level. You've gone from the minor leagues now to pro level, and you want to be able to work as an agent out there, as a team in the greater community. Right. Do you feel like your relationship has changed with him? Has it added to it, or detracted to it, or caused this kind of this compartmentalization in your relationship?
I'd like to think that it's we're expressing things a lot more differently. When you're boys, you're just like chilling out and talking about whatever, things that interest you. But like right now, all we're talking about is our baby, this company. Yeah. And in that essence, nothing has changed. It's just that we're talking about different things. We're running after different things. Or we both got goals in sight. How we fully express ourselves is where we take this company. Do we turn into another corporate entity that says yes to every client and does work without really putting your heart and soul into a project? I'd like to turn away. I wouldn't like to turn away some clients. No, please keep coming. No, but like but it would be.
It's hard. You're trying to set a culture that you're both happy with.
Exactly,
like for future standards. You know, right? Yeah.
Right.
So, what is that? Have you found that your vision of what that culture should be in your company or in his vision is different, aligned, or just confused at this point?
Well, he comes from a background of retail, so what he's really bringing to the company that I didn't even in 100 years I would never have known how positively that could affect the company. Because the kind of conversations we have with clients is it's not just design work. We're also offering you our the complete package of our intellectual capacity to help your brand and help your product get off that shelf and into somebody's hands. So I know how to play the advertising game. I know because symbolism and ideologies has been my entire upbringing.
It is your language.
It's my language, and his is the numbers.
Yeah.
Is the numbers talk for
logistics, time management? Would you say
Right.
that's both of you, or do you feel like he's helped you kind of understand a bit of time for?
We're doing the logistics and time management together.
Yeah.
But we're also doing it apart.
Right.
Because there's some projects that he takes a lead on and some that I take a lead on.
Yeah.
So as far as social media is concerned, I'd rather somebody else do the time management for something like that.
Yeah.
And tell me when something's expected so that I could prepare some things a week earlier. You know, it is social media. So having things ready as a package a little earlier offsets the surprises that you sometimes get from clients. It's like, hey, we're going to run a promotion on Thursday.
Yeah.
But it is Thursday. It's like, do you mean next Thursday? I was like, no, I mean like this Thursday. It's like, oh, shit. You know, and that's it. Like, so in it's two spheres trying to occupying the same space.
Two halves of the same mind trying to blend and make things work.
And it's been an awesome learning experience because, like you said a little earlier, what we lack in Bahrain is that collaborative spirit.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing what we lacked in Bahrain, I would say, because now there are people to collaborate with, and maybe it was just like a rite of passage. Maybe it just
they're there, but I still feel like there's this issue of cultural mindset and when I say cultural mindset, I don't mean the culture. Some of you might think I'm talking about, you know, this delineation of where somebody comes from, which country they're from, what they are ethnically. And I'm talking about there's this shared, no matter who you are ethnically, no matter what your passport color is, there's this culture in the Middle East of you know, I got to be careful because every man is for himself. It's very dystopian, and maybe that's why I relate to Mad Max in that sense. Like, yes. It's all about, you know, I want to make sure I'm ahead and not screwing myself over before somebody else backstabs me. So every idea, every venture, every opportunity is so precious to the point that it's very hard to get something that's not like you can't get bigger projects going, because the second you get to the next tier of work, the next tier of complexity in your project, you have to rely on trust and that people share the same mindset. Right. And unfortunately, people get so freaked out about this issue, and they'll gladly work with somebody whose work is inferior or not really up to par because it's just somebody that they feel like will never backstab them. Right. And I don't feel like that's the spirit of collaboration, because you'll see directors in the Middle East, you'll see you know, anybody working on a creative venture or even a certain company, they will take the nepotism, my friend, my cousin, my family member, over somebody else, because we have not developed a language of mutual interest.
Exactly.
We get so paranoid, we get so scared, we cannot see that, well, we got to look past that and figure and look past the idea of how this person is going to screw me over, and actually think about, you know, well, everybody is a human being. They will not screw me over if I make sure that our interests are aligned, right? And that we share the same vision. So you'd love to be able to get people on board because they love you and because you trust them, because they're your friend. That's a bonus, right?
Right.
But sometimes those things only happen after time. So you have to start off with showing mutual interest. You go, well, buddy, like, you have this talk show here, I have this here, you know, we work together, we share audiences, we collaborate, we both benefit, right? And you can say that, but still at the back of their heads, they're like, how is this guy going to screw me over? Do you know? And that can feed into the relationship and make it poisonous. So from your side of it, have you been able, when you say you feel like the culture of collaboration is now growing, it's here now, do you feel like you've been experiencing people that don't go through those bouts of paranoia and defensiveness and militarization of their instincts,
The thing is, I don't think I even I didn't really play that aspect into the spirit of collaboration, because for me that is me as a person. I'm naturally paranoid, because I still remember the first time a friend had stolen like some artwork from me and then signed it and put it up online. And that was when I was 16, 17. And obviously, I'm used to losing things in the design world, in the art world, and ultimately what I know is, if I have a great idea, it has to be expressed immediately, or at least written down so I can do something with it later. So I've just created these systems and these protocols so that my journey is as smooth as possible, fully knowing I'm going to have these little roadblocks that come along the way.
Right.
The thing is, in terms of finding like the spirit of collaboration, in your words, that is something that you have to consider.
Right.
When you're going to work with somebody. The thing is, finding people to collaborate with, that's what I meant. It's not so difficult.
Yes.
But finding someone who fits this puzzle that you'd like to put out, like it takes two people to make something work.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if we want to hold an event, we can't all be doing the same job.
Right.
Work needs to be delegated. You take care of that. You take care of that. And
division of labor.
That's it. That's what it is. It's Age of Empires. It's like
the fundamentals of an economic system.
Yeah. So that's it. Like, we need to, for collaboration to work, there has to be end product.
Yeah.
And end product can only be seen if people don't have to constantly tell each other what to do, but just do.
Well, that's my issue with the workplace here in the Middle East. I know it's changing, and I have hope in it, and there's many people that have proven me wrong over the years. Maybe it is because collaboration is now visible. You can see it as an example in Western culture, and maybe we're taking the best out of that and leaving the worst out of it. But I felt like, even from comedy to writing to copywriting to anything else, that if you go into the spirit of like weaponizing your mind to be defensive and you're precious about what you're putting out there, you're a lot of your creative energies are spent being like, it's like a military budget. You're spending it more on the weapons and defending yourself, and everybody's doing that. Everybody's playing the art of war, the art of how to defend yourself from somebody else screwing you over, even if you're not going on the attack.
It's proper scary, yeah.
It is scary, and it kind of, I try to shun it as much as possible within myself. I'll go, people are going to steal this, people are going to do this, people are going to backstab me. But if I weaponize, if I go to that next step, then I have no energy left to actually create. Whatever I do create becomes mediocre in the process, and then the well of what I'm scared of, which is my creativity drying up, it is never kind of revived or refreshed, because it's just this climate of fear. But the second you let go, you go, oh, okay, he wants to take this, but I can see the guy, that backstabbed me or took the content that I created, and I can feel, I feel a little bit of pity now, because I know that he's going through a moment of fear where he's struggling that he's not going to have the next big idea, because he doesn't see that his weaponization is what caused the well to dry up in the first place.
Right.
That was always an analogy I used here in the Middle East, is like, our problem is, when it comes to anything that is corporate or creative or, joint ventures, cross-discipline collaboration, there is a mentality of the Bedouin culture, which is there's a limited resource of water, and the way we live our life justifies that, because there's only enough water for my tribe over your tribe and my people over your people. Yeah. So we're going to,
the last drop in that well is super expensive.
Exactly. So I understand that rationale, because you're not saying I want to attack people for the sake of attacking people, but I'm going to be defensive and Machiavellian in how I think, because there's a limited supply of water. The problem is, the things we're talking about are not limited. We live in a global world where you can fund yourself, you can find resources outside of your own communities, outside of Bahrain, outside of the region, and you can, if you just show good work, people will find you from China and from other places and support you and fund you. So I feel like the mentality has, like, we're still living like tribal warriors, but maybe not in the literal sense, but we're living it mentally. And we haven't gone to this farmer mentality, which is we all grow so we can grow together, right? We're all farming at the same time.
Right.
And I don't know if you've started to see that farmer mentality in your own work. And
that's my goal.
Right.
My goal is to be one of those dispensers of things off shelves.
Yeah.
I want to be the creators of things. You know, like being a part of designing stuff for people and stuff like that. It's in terms of posters. Wow, that's something I really like. It gets me tingling.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't exist. The culture isn't there. If people are buying posters and stuff like that, they're going and buying what somebody else brought in from a different country.
Right. Yeah.
But like within the country, where my silk screen printers at?
Right.
You know, like where my crazy people that make like decorative tiles. You know, where my graffiti designers at? Where the actors at?
So then the grassroots level, you are finding people that share that same culture and are willing to kind of collaborate together. You know?
I mean, for sure. Like, I look at you as well as being one of those new breeds in Bahrain.
Yeah.
We have a wealth of information and experiences that we've been able to log in from people that have tried to do it previously but failed and had to redefine and rebrand themselves in order to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And it's the same question for me because when we met 3 years ago, we first collaborated with Boho Baha.
Yeah.
And that was events. You didn't really see David the artist yet. You saw David the guy that makes things.
Yes.
You know?
And the Nick Offerman of wood shopping and cutting
that's
stuff.
It. You know, like
the mad scientist. Even then.
No, it was nuts. You know, and after that it moved into, then I went to India because I had that problem, remember, with my company, which was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Because I found a niche and I found a place in society where I was so intriguing to the community. He looks brown, but he talks white. You know, and it's like he must be good. You know, and me and my cousin set up a small. We didn't set up the business. We were more of seeing where it went, but it was we were putting vinyls on bikes and cars.
Right.
And that taught me a completely new thing. Like I learned how to do fiberglass work, how to lay vinyls. I got training from 3M and Avery Dennison, and that really inspired me because, and this is really weird, as soon as I came back to Bahrain, I sounded mental with the amount of positivity that I had from that experience. There's people who's like, yeah, you got the crazy ass, bro.
Yeah, you're too hopeful at this point.
Yeah,
there is an energy that used to be here. I call it the sapping or draining energy of people that they just want to bring you down back to reality, right?
Yeah. You know, but like that was actually like it was such a great experience because as soon as I came back, and I met you guys, and I met PD, all I felt was, I know how to do it now.
Yeah.
And what that takes is you need a little structure. You need you need to create your box first. And within that box, you need to express yourself until that box gets full. Then just build that box again, get bigger, and do more things, you know, as you go. But what I've learned in the 9 months that I've been back in Bahrain, and we're finally in the process of starting our business. It took a lot of flopping around like fish, you know, like
a lot of that failed hope, that
a lot of failed projects.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my original business plan for the company will not kick in for the next 2 years,
right?
Because we've restructured it so that number one, we need to survive, and then number two, on top of that, my actual plan to get into a certain market requires an education of society to tell them that you can now get this here. Be proud about the fact that you can get it here. Make made in Bahrain a reality.
Yeah.
You know, and take it out into the region and into the rest of the world. Like, this is a super reality. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, this is like a vision now that's goes just past the concept point, the first early sketches, and now this thing you've plucked out of your dream world, your cartoon world that exists in our own heads, now it's legitimate because you see all these people that are pushing Made in Bahrain.
Yeah.
You're seeing ministries and government ventures and all these initiatives to kind of get people that are unorthodox collaborators and creatives and entrepreneurs to kind of take risks. They want them to take risks, and you feel like it's a lot warmer welcome.
And it has a lot to do with researching the statistics and analyzing trends and the way things work. I mean, Isaac Asimov, when he wrote I, Robot, no robots around yet. Like they were there, and they're probably in their more primal nature.
Right.
Them cranking gear.
Yeah, the early.
Pull the lever, Igor.
The automaton. Yes. Creators of the future, welcome and see the majesty of
Fallout 4, isn't it? Yeah, oh man, love that game. Love that game.
For those of you now going, what the hell are they talking about? Isaac Asimov, the father of I would say modern science fiction. It was a very specific school of science fiction thought. And I, Robot was one of his prominent creations and stories that he wrote. And the other one, Fallout, is a video game. So this is a good analogy to kind of how you go from something that is considered even sci-fi, considered concept, considered subculture, considered not taken seriously by literary academics, and then it becomes a reality where people see the value and the worth in it, and people want to collaborate with you to figure out how you're doing it, and your culture and the way you think kind of rub off on them. Yeah, in a good way, hopefully.
That's it. That's it. And I know that's going to happen because I know people's interests have been piqued, especially with our little cultural events like Boho Baha, which is unfortunately no longer around. But at least those kind of events have actually created other events, and they have gone forth and created more.
Yes, and they've proven it can be done.
Yeah, they've proven it can be done. Yeah, and the petri dish is full. There are people that are coming from different sectors of society and redefining these little gatherings and groups with that vibe of collaboration.
Right.
And
it's a really hopeful note, I feel, to kind of leave it on and to kind of give a message to all of you guys back home and wherever you are, globally speaking. If you're one of us, if you're one of the cross-culture collaborators or creatives that have been struggling to find your people, struggling to find your tribe, this is one of the people that you should definitely look up. It's been fun on, actually. We've actually gone over an hour, 30 minutes. Did not see that coming, man. Honestly, you guys should see conversations that me and him have with our friend Petey, a Cypriot.
Yeah, we're going to have to do that soon.
Yeah, that's just complete metaphysics and science fiction and all that. So we'll get to that one day. But thank you, Dave, for coming on board. And can you tell people where to find your work or to collaborate with you or kind of get in contact with you?
Sure. I mean, you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram account's DaveRich87, and you can see a lot of my work over there. And send me a message, and if you'd like to do some work together, I'd be happy to work on some projects with you. So let me know. Baby Company needs its milk, so get in touch.
Yes. All right, guys. To all of you in the Middle East and everywhere else in the world, thank you for staying with us today, and thank you, Dave. We'll be coming at you soon, and hopefully having Dave here a lot more often. Take care and stay safe.